up.
Thumbs up.
So you can't see our thumbs.
Nope. But our thumbs are up.
Yeah.
And our podcast is rolling.
What if we were lying to them and our thumbs really weren't
Down.
up?
They'll never know. It's our little secret. Oh, hi, guys. This is our podcast. Thanks for joining us. We're Creatures of the Night. I'm Chris. And
I'm Wendy. So the other day, I was watching Drunk History.
That's perfect.
You see the correlation?
Yep.
I was watching Drunk History, and they did the Greenbrier Ghost.
No shit.
Story.
Are you serious?
Zona Hestershoe. Yes, they did.
I could do that drunk. I could do that one drunk.
That's what I was saying.
That's my story.
I was like, we are like the Drunk History podcast form.
Yeah, for sure.
That's totally what we do.
Oh
we
God.
Tell stories and drink a whole lot.
As like right now, because it's for us, you guys are just hearing this episode for the first time. You're just tuning in. We've been podcasting nonstop for several hours.
9 hours. Like a full-time job.
It's brutal, guys. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for tuning in. So Drunk History, I can't believe they did my story. That's awesome.
They did. And it was a female that told the story. And I've seen her before, though now I can't remember her name. She was very hilarious. She had she was very drunk.
Oh.
I swear she was wearing some very lavish robe, and her whole background setting was like, does she live in a circus tent? It was very interesting where she was at. But the host and her were talking. They always do these kind of like, when they come back from commercial, it shows them like in the kitchen filling up their drink or something
Yeah.
like that. She totally like spilt her drink all over the host
Oh,
guy
no.
to where it like almost fell onto where his crotch was and stuff. And she's just like, oh, I'm sorry. You know,
Oh my God. That's so funny.
it was so funny. She was laughing uncontrollably,
Yeah.
which I relate. And but the show is really cool. I think I've said this before,
I love it.
but I really dig Drunk History. And I know this sounds like very bad parenting, but we let our kids watch it with us. Only with us, because there is dirty language from time to time or dirty stories. I just cough really loudly during those. Like there was one story last night, because they do like a series of like 3 stories per episode or something. And there was one about a guy, and I swear I'd heard this before. He had accidentally got shot through his frontal lobe, but survived. But his like personality was fucked after that. He was like having all kinds of weird mood swings and stuff. So at one
Isn't
point,
this the skull that's in Boston, Massachusetts, in the college?
oh, I think it is. Yeah, like because it was totally donated like to science afterwards and stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's an
Because it was
interesting
really
story.
impressive, and it had a lot to do with what they learned after that about the whole frontal lobe and
Yeah.
how it connects to your personality traits. Because the guy was kind of like going through mood swings through his life. He wasn't the same as he was before. So at one point, it's like he's at a bar. I know this has nothing to do with Zona. I apologize. I'm just kind of transferring into another story. But all of a sudden, he was just like, I can't even say the word because it's like one of my words I don't say. And I say a lot of bad words. But I mean, he basically was getting kind of vulgar in what he's like, let's get some, anyways. And so as soon as they say it, we're like, and then his friend, like they're acting this out. So like people were shocked by this dude's behavior in real life, and in the reenactment on a Drunk History, it's kind of like, what's wrong with you, man? And then he was like, what? And continued it. So we were just like, skip, never mind. So that's what we do. We just always kind of skip through the stories if they start to get a little provocative, or if the language is bad, I can just cough my way through it, I guess. But my kids totally know what I'm doing. Like, they don't care, and I'm sure they roll their eyes. But they really like Drunk History, and I really do believe it tells historical stories, like, in a fun way. And it's anytime you can get your kids to sit down and listen to that stuff and pay attention, it's like, okay, they're learning something. They're also getting to see how drunk people react or how they act. And so maybe it's teaching them let's not be that stupid.
Hopefully.
I don't know. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But
yeah, it didn't teach me anything. Let's just put that out there.
We didn't have drunk history in our day.
No, we're making it.
We are. Yet my kids won't pay attention to my show.
No.
Probably best they don't, because I can't cough my way through it if there's some inappropriate moments. But I appreciate that they're getting the historic stories, and if it's the only way to get them to pay attention and entertain them, at least that's the way that mine are, so be it. We just recently survived a 30-hour road trip together with 2 teenage boys, and technically 1 teenage boy, 1 very, very soon to be teenage boy.
I know. I'm so very happy to see you alive and well after that journey.
I know, because it wasn't just 30 hours, it was 30 hours twice.
Shit.
Going to our destination and getting back home. So 60 hours total in 1 week's time.
I mean, I would toast to you, my friend. My glass is raised.
I'm going to raise mine. Cheers. There
Cheers.
we go. Yep. My point is it was painful, as traveling with children can be. But I have basically 2 teenagers, so it's a lot easier than when they were younger. But when you travel with kids, you are forcefully volunteered into certain roles you didn't sign up for.
Oh, shit.
You are the designated garbage man.
Yeah.
All trash comes your way as if nobody else knows how to make a shopping bag a garbage can. You're constantly past things like phones and tablets to be charged. I mean, you have that fancy new van, so I bet it's got plugs everywhere. But our vehicle doesn't. No, our Fords are basic as fuck. So they're passing them all up front to me to charge on the 2 little plugs that we got, and that's it. You're also asked about food and drinks constantly, even though the cooler's in the back seat
Jesus.
with the 2 kids that are asking for them. You become fucking Google Maps. Where are we? What town is this? Where on the map is that? What can we do here? Nothing. We can drive through it. That's what we're doing.
Play your video games. I have to sit here too.
I mean, it's better than when they were little and all they did was whine or whatever and throw up in the car and stuff like that. They were definitely troopers.
Oh, shit. And yet you said, I enjoy road trips.
Personally, in my space between trash pickup and charging station duties,
oh my gosh.
I do enjoy them. And I appreciate my kids knowing me and getting it and understanding and being okay with my cheapness because, yes, we could have just flew. Lots of people would do it that way.
But this is about togetherness and family time, right? Memories building and
it's also about saving a couple of $100.
It's always about the savings.
Never mind the deterioration on your vehicle. That you don't take into factor. Shut up.
Yeah.
For people out there logically putting this all together. So it was a couple of $100 cheaper for us to drive instead of fly. And then also, I'm just a huge fan of road tripping.
Uh-huh.
I enjoy it. I enjoy getting to see towns and cities that I wouldn't have a chance to see had we just flown over them.
True. You're at ground level at this point. You can actually put your eyes on them. Yeah, I get that.
These are not tourist destinations, and they're not places that you would think to go on a vacation to. But yet you find these little adorable towns. We found this little adorable town in Texas. I think it was outside of Austin. And I know this is so stupid because a dozen times as we drove through the town, I kept saying to everyone in the car, if we lived in Texas, this is where we would live. It's so cute.
I love Texas.
Adorable. I love everything about it. And then now I can't even remember the name of the town.
Oh, look, I watched the guys, the Magnolia Home, Joanna and her husband all the time. The fixer-uppers. Yeah, Chip.
Yeah, Chip and Joanna Gaines.
Freaking love them.
Watch that show.
Oh, God,
That's
yes.
in Waco.
Yes, and I've never wanted to move to Texas. Like, it was totally off my map until I started watching this show, and I'm like, I could live in Waco, Texas. I'm sorry, but I could totally live there. And I need them to fix up my house. So they do
shiplap everywhere.
Whichever one they pick, I'm on board. I don't care. Just as long as the neighborhood doesn't look too run down.
None of the towns that they pick, I mean, none of the houses they ever, it seems like Waco, despite its past,
right.
we all
history.
know.
It's
yeah, if you're into cults, you know how Waco connects. They're really building a new name for Waco. It's very cute.
So
they have
cute.
an ice cream parlor. I mean, or whatever, dessert place. I think she makes cupcakes.
I would fucking live there. I love it. I think it's so cute.
Well, sweet. Then fly down and I'll meet you there and we'll go all in that area. They have a B&B, or they did a few years ago. They renovated an old home. It's not in Waco. It's right outside of it, but it's got to be haunted.
Chip and Joanne
right?
renovated it?
Yeah. Yeah, they bought some old home and then they did a whole renovation to it and stuff, and now it's a B&B. So we can go in town to see their furniture store and we're going to have to make sure they have gluten-free cupcakes. And then we can stay in the B&B, and then we can go down to my little town I'm in love with that I don't know the name of.
I love Texas. I don't know. Look, just as a side note here, somebody that started following us a long time ago, somebody had liked our Instagram feed. And I mean, long time ago. I think this is when we were back in the 300 followers area. And I'm like, yes, like so all those years ago. I'm now in the 13. No, whatever. But anyways, they had linked a picture of a graveyard that was in Texas. And it was like, it's one of the most beautiful graves that I've ever seen before. And this is why, like, when I visited Wendy in Arizona, I was like, I have to see a graveyard in the desert. I need to know if that's what they look like. And of course, they're fucking creepy and beautiful. So anything that you've ever imagined a desert cemetery looking like, it is, and it's perfect.
Oh, I was about to say, they don't look like that. But that's right. You went to the one in Jerome, and it is pretty impressive. I'm just thinking of the ones in Tucson, and I'm like, no, they're pretty standard.
Yeah, I know. I remember when we drove by that one, and I was like, wow, that's weird. It looks a lot like a regular cemetery. But yeah, the one in Jerome is perfect.
It is, yeah. And there's one not too far from me off of Escalante, because I'm out in like Vail, Corona de Tucson area, for any Arizonans that are listening. And it's that same like Jerome vibe or whatever. It's just the lone desert vibe. Yeah.
I like how you name drop too. Yes.
Just in case. Yes. I have lots of fans around here. I have no idea. I'm sure it's just us, these four, and all our devices. Who knows? So anyone that's listening to it that might be from Texas, I really wish you would give me the name of this little town. I think it's outside of Austin, and it had a very cute old-timey downtown feel to it. It had like old stone and brick buildings. There was a crawfish festival going on. I love crawfish.
Sweet. Me too. Oh my God.
I don't want to eat them from the thing though, but give them to me, Shell.
In a dip. I'm fine with it in a dip.
Yeah, please. But everybody was all cute and going to the festival, and there was lots of crafty looking shops and very cute restaurants, and get this, lots of wineries. There were wineries fucking everywhere through this
Hey,
town.
It wasn't Sanguine, was it, by any chance? You said this was outside of Austin.
Listen, you could say 1,000 names and I still wouldn't remember what you're saying. But that honestly doesn't sound familiar at all. I thought it was a very more common, like, kind of name.
It's just cued into me because Sanguine was the place of the Magnolia Hotel that I just saw this morning. That was like,
oh yeah, no, when you put that this morning, I was like, oh my God.
I know about your story. I know about your Every time I do one of those, I'm like, oh my God, I hope this isn't what Wendy's writing about. Please. So let's
no. Wouldn't that be funny? That would be hilarious if it was, though. But that's the thing. This cute, adorable town I was going through, it's like it looked very old school. So I just kept thinking to myself, there's got to be a haunted B&B somewhere.
Aw.
Chris and I have to come here, and we'll go to the wineries, and we'll walk the cute downtown, and we'll
Love
stay
it.
at some haunted, because that's where my mind always goes. I'm always wondering about the haunted locations along the way on these road trips that I take.
Oh, yeah.
So our midway point, coming and going, was Houston, Texas. So, of course, I made a long list of every haunted location that I could find on Houston, Texas, just in case we had time to explore. I've never been there.
I have.
Oh, that's right. You went for a whole, I thought that's what it was,
Yeah.
that you have been to Houston for it. But you didn't check out any haunted things, did you?
No, I was just there for work. So the only thing I could do was visit, like, the city. We went to a fantastic Chinese restaurant where I had tasted Japanese. Oh, I guess it was a Japanese restaurant then. My bad. Japanese. I had Japanese wine for the first time. It was a little sweeter than I had expected, but, you know, it didn't stop me. I put a few back. And it was great. Houston's a beautiful city. I've only ever seen Houston on the first 48. So.
Which Memphis has also been represented on.
That's right. That's right. So
connection there. It's okay, Houston. We Memphis girls get it. Things get out of control, very, very badly. Mm-hmm. But yes, I had Houston was very impressive, and each time that we drove through the city, I wanted so bad to explore these locations, but my kids were having none of it. They refused to be in the car any longer than necessary, which is understandable for how long we were in the vehicle, but I tried my hardest to convince them. I was sharing all the dark history and reporting all the activity from the locations, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I'm the only one that thinks this shit is cool.
I was going to say, they didn't have any gator farms there in Texas that you could, like, persuade them into giving, like, tradesies on?
No, even though, actually, when we were coming back during the day, it was on our way back home from Florida. The kids we were on a very long-ass bridge. I'm pretty sure the one you talked about before. I don't really know. I know we were on that bridge at some point.
Really?
Yeah.
That's Manchac.
The Manchac Swamp. Yes.
Yeah.
Somebody's about to do an episode on that.
We did.
No, not us.
Oh.
Like a TV show. I saw that somewhere. Anyways, one location did pique their interest, mostly due to the historic past, but I thought to myself, if they were interested in the story, I couldn't get them to go on a tour, but if they were interested in the story, then maybe I should make that my podcast story.
Oh, but you couldn't get to go on the tour?
No, because they wouldn't do anything. We were getting there very late at night most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, this is the historic past and spooky tales from the USS Texas. It's a battleship. The USS Texas is a New York class battleship. I don't know what that means. That was just on Wikipedia. Launched on May 18th, 1912, and was commissioned on March the 12th, 1914, under the command of Captain Albert W. Grant. So after her commissioning, Texas saw action in Mexican waters following the Tampico incident and made numerous soirees, I'm trying to say that word appropriately, into the North Sea during World War I. When the United States formally entered World War II in 1941, Texas escorted convoys across the Atlantic and later shelled Axis-held beaches for the North African campaign and Normandy landings.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
Yeah. So then they transferred to the Pacific Theater late in 1944 to provide naval gunfire support during the battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, to then complete 3 voyages to bring troops home at the end of the war. Texas was decommissioned in 1948, having earned a total of 5 battle stars for service in World War II, and is now a museum near Houston, Texas.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah.
And you guys didn't get to tour it.
Oh. And I think the kids would have really liked it too. And I'm sure it's what piqued their interest too. It's a whole battle, and both of them have learned about specifically more so World War II than one. So I think that kind of got their interest. And I think their video games talk about World War II a lot. So
battleships are just the coolest to me. When I ended up in New York, Buffalo. I don't even remember when it was, but I was there. I was in Buffalo a couple years ago to visit my dad and his.
When you went to Niagara.
Yeah, when I was supposed to see Niagara, right? So, yeah, but we went. My dad and I and my son and my husband, we all toured a couple of battleships there, and it was a couple. When I say that, it was like 3 or 4. We got to tour, and the whole time I'm like, talking to my dad's girlfriend and my dad's girlfriend's son and soon-to-be wife. And I'm like, it's a battleship. Let's go. And they're like, there's a winery right around the corner. Don't you want to? I'm like, I love wineries, but oh my God, it's a battleship. It's like a once in a lifetime thing. Sure, I won't be able to sit out on the lawn and see the side, and know the story of the berries and all of that. I get it. It's a fucking battleship. Don't you want to go? And they're like, yeah, no, we'll pass. I'm like,
now listen, the Schultz family would have been on board with
know.
Because they don't seem to bat an eye. When I go to Canada, right on the other side of Buffalo is where they're at in Canada. And I'm like, fort, please take me out to all
forts.
Those forts. Okay. So I think they would have totally been down with all the battleships. Next time, just let me know and I'll tell Rick to come across the border to see you. He would love that.
Hey man. Okay, this is my dad, and this is, super awesome paranormal follower of ours.
They made best friends.
And we're all gonna go hunt ghosts on the battleships. Let's do this.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a rundown on some of the most notable events over the USS Texas's 34 years of service. So it's existed a lot longer than that, but it was in service with the military for 34 years. So on April 19th, 1914, the crew of the Mongolia, a merchant vessel, sighted a surfaced German U-boat on the attack.
Oh.
The gun crew aboard the Texas opened fire on the U-boat and saved the crew of the Mongolia and fired the first American shot of World War I. So on May 25th, 1914, Texas, along with battleships South Carolina, Louisiana, and Michigan, took part in a rescue of 230 passengers from a damaged Holland-American lined passenger ship, the Rydam, I'm guessing. Google it if you don't believe me. No. It was rammed by a Norwegian flagged fruit steamer. This is a ship just to carry fruit.
Oh, okay.
And it rammed into this passenger ship, and the Texas took part in rescuing 230 passengers.
Oh, damn. That's crazy.
Then, during World War II, on June 7th, 1944, the battleship received word that the Ranger Battalion at Point Duhok was still isolated from the rest of the invasion force with low ammunition and mounting casualties. In response, Texas obtained and filled 2 LCVPs, which are those like container ship looking boats that go in the water have you ever watched like Saving Private Ryan or whatever? They're at the beginning when they storm the beach of Normandy and stuff like that. It's what takes the soldiers up to the shore, and it can also take like supplies and everything. But it looks like giant container ships.
Yep. Okay.
So they filled it with provisions and ammunition for the Rangers, and then upon the return of the LCVPs, it brought 35 wounded Rangers aboard the Texan for treatment, of which one of the soldiers passed away on the operating table. Along with the 35 Rangers, also a deceased Coast Guard sailor was amongst that group. Also brought aboard were 27 prisoners, 20 Germans, 4 Italians, and 3 French persons, we're going to say. But I'm assuming they're all men. I just didn't want to be sexist. The prisoners were held there for a time until they were transferred to England. So the enemy held towns of Forming, and it's French. It can't be just said that way. I'm sure it's a lot fancier. And Trivieres, and again, could be saying that wrong. But they were firing shells on the town to break up German troop concentration. And then come the next morning, the Texas had survived and retired to Plymouth to rearm and return to the French coast on June 11th. On the morning of June 25th at 12:33 p.m., the Texas, while en route to Cherbourg, maybe I'm saying that right, was hit by 3 German shells. 5 minutes later, Texas returned fire. The battleship continued their firing runs in spite of shells geysering over the ship and difficulty spotting their targets even, just, with all the smoke and stuff. They just kept continuously firing, even though the Germans were firing. The Germans were firing at them. However, the enemy gunneries were just as stubborn and skilled, so they just kept on, both back and forth forever. Basically.
Yeah, right.
Forever, but at
long enough, right?
Yeah. It lasted for a while. So you can imagine, even if this was 20 minutes of your life of constant firing back and forth in life, back and forth would be traumatic. And in the end, it lasted for like 3 hours. 3 hours of this back and forth kind of action.
Yeah, that's still a long ass time.
Yeah. But at 1:16, so just an hour in or so, the German 24-centimeter shells skidded across the top of the Texas, like a tower on the ship, and it sheared off the top and set fire to the control periscope. It hit the main support column of the navigation bridge and exploded, wounding 4 sailors. And the explosion caused the deck of the pilot house above to blow up as well. And so it blew up like approximately like 4 feet in the air. So like a domino effect of all these things happening. And in the end, 11 casualties came from that hit.
Dang.
I mean, they were wounded. I shouldn't say casualties. 11 people were wounded, but only 1 man died from his wounds. And that was the helmsman on duty. His name was Christian Christensen.
Wow, that's a tough one.
Yeah, your parents.
Christian, come on, guys, don't do that to your kids.
Come on.
It could have been a David.
John. To not make all that so hard to say.
Michael. Come on.
At no time did it cross your mind, this is too much alike.
Like that guy was set up for just to be made fun of his entire life.
Well, it's almost like you're Mark. That's
right.
Whatever. But I'm sorry that he lost his life at the same time. It's not your fault. It's your parents. So throughout the, like I told you, 3-hour duel, the Germans rained firepower over 65 times at the Texas. But she continued her mission, firing 206 14-inch shells at Battery Hamburg. I don't even know, honestly, where the Hamburg came from.
Hamburg is a place in Germany, so I would assume just like the Texas.
Yeah. And I could be saying it wrong, like you say Hamburg and I say Hamburg. So, so I'm assuming it's a town that they were geared. I mean, they were aiming all this shit towards. Right. But it's just weird how it popped up in the story that I was reading. Then they were ordered to retire at 3:01. So this all did happen in like a 3-hour span. And but it was only 1 casualty aboard the Texas. Great. Technically 2. And they brought aboard a dead body.
I hate to say that that's great because there was only the 1 or 2 casualties.
It seems pretty impressive though.
It's unfortunate for those families to have lost that loved one. But for this to be going on, it is very impressive for there to only be that small amount of casualties,
It speaks volumes on their skills and the stability of the ship and everything, because technically only one casualty came from all of the shelling back and forth. The other two were brought aboard from what was happening on land. So, I mean, it's impressive engineering on the U.S.'s part for the ship and stuff. But yes, it's sad for everybody anytime a life is lost. So, in February 16, 1945, the battleship Texas arrived off the coast of Iwo Jima 3 days before the amphitheater landings began. She spent just 3 days pounding the Japanese forces on Iwo Jima in preparation for the landings of 3 Marine Corps divisions. After the Marines stormed the beaches on February 19th, Texas switched to providing naval gunfire support to them. These were like on-call requests by the Marines. Anytime they said like, hey, hit this area for us to kind of clear out people, that's what they would do. And that continued until February 21st. And then they were moved, even though Iwo Jima wasn't completely like claimed until like March 16th. The Texas departed the Volcano Islands. I guess that's what Iwo Jima is called.
Wow, really? I didn't know that. Volcano
Islands. I didn't know
Islands.
that either. And again, it was one of those things just thrown into what I was reading that I didn't like further research, but I was kind of like, never heard of that before. But I was like, that's that curious mind that was like, don't make this a 4-hour podcast trying to find out what the volcano islands are.
Just let's run with it. Let's go.
Let's just stick to the Texas. Here we go. But my mind always goes to places like that.
Yeah.
So they moved on even before the islands there were claimed. And they arrived in, really just off the coast of Okinawa before the bombardment of that all started. So for the next 6 days before everybody else arrived, they were firing gunpowder onto that area in preparation or to prepare the way for several Army and Marine divisions to make their amphitheater landings on April the 1st.
Damn. Oh, April Fool's Day.
Yeah. For almost 2 months, Texas remained in Okinawa waters, providing gunfire support for troops and fending off enemy aerial assaults. In performing the latter mission, they claimed 1 kamikaze kill on her own and claimed 3 assists. On May 14th, though, she departed Okinawa for the Philippines and then remained there until the end of the war. On April 20th, 1948, the Texas arrived in her new anchorage along the busy Houston Ship Canal near the San Jacinto, that may be completely wrong in pronunciation, monument at San Jacinto State Park, where she was turned over to the state of Texas the next day and served as a permanent memorial.
Wow.
The date of April 21st is a significant one in Texas history, as it is the date of the decisive 1836 Battle of San Jacinto ended the war for Texas independence and led to the creation of the Republic of Texas, which joined the United States as a state in 1845. When the battleship was presented to the state of Arizona, she was commissioned as the flagship of Texas Navy. Or of the Texas Navy.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, because they were an independent situation. Well, I mean, not in that time, but, Texas. They just want to be on their own. They're their own thing. Yeah. So she was the flagship of their naval representation, I guess.
But you said that it ended the war of the Texas independence.
Oh, yes. Oh, that battle did. Though I read more into that, and I don't know if it necessarily ended it, but it was definitely kind of a stamping point of it. It was 1836.
Damn. fucking long ass time ago.
Yeah. You know, they've just been all over the place with who owns Texas. It's kind of like the podcast I did not too long ago with Florida and Spain.
Yeah, right.
To Texas and Mexico, and then like trying to be on their own. Oops.
Yeah, they're like, we want this piece right here, and these other guys are like, nope, no sir.
Yeah,
we want this piece right here.
Yeah. And then Texas, they're like, or we could just be ourselves. We're big enough. And so they went back and forth with that. But this was the end of that kind of war against Mexico.
Wow.
And then they became their own thing. And then, like, I don't know, almost 9 years later, they were like, okay, or we'll just become a part of the U.S., whatever, you know, type
yes,
thing. But not.
But
they're still very much themselves. Once the ship opened as a museum, many people began to report mysterious things being seen and heard.
Wow. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, especially near that park, you know, where a battle happened and everything. So people have seen anomalies that appear to be like a mysterious vapor.
Yes.
Well, other individuals have heard unusual whispering and chattering around the vessel.
Creepy.
Others have reported seeing a red-headed sailor in a white sailor's uniform about the ship.
Very, very, very pale and red hair.
He's not a ghost. He's like a real sailor.
The whitest of all the white guys.
A redhead. Yeah.
Poor guy.
I'm for real. No.
Filming me, I'm not
but it's actually a very common story as well. I found that from multiple sources, the red-headed sailor there. So he is most often seen on different decks. Sometimes the ghost is spotted with a smile on his face.
Interesting. Happy-go-lucky.
Yeah. He's a happy ghost or a demon. You never know. It's a trick.
Nope. Just a demon.
Yeah. One former caretaker actually claimed that, so this was a crazy fucking story, and I only found it in one spot, but I had to share this with you because it's just extreme. So one caretaker claimed that there's this freaky, like, rip in time and space located in the trophy room of the ship.
Wow.
She claims that she walked through the trophy room doorway and found herself in a cemetery in France.
No. Hold on. I have to be here now. I gotta go. There's a ripple in time and you just walk through it. You're on a boat and then suddenly you're in a cemetery in France?
Yeah. So a podcast ago you were talking a lot about like the Stephen King books that you had read. And so I guess Stephen King produced this show that came on Hulu called, well, I don't really know how you're supposed to announce it, but it's 11/22/63. It's all about the Kennedy assassination and stuff. James Franco is in it. I'm a big fan of his. And there's all this like wormhole thing.
Did you watch it?
He just goes through a closet. And I'm watching it. I'm not finished. If you watched it, don't you dare ruin it for me.
No, I actually started reading that book.
And so is that written by Stephen King? I saw that it's
That's Stephen King.
Producer and everything, so I just assumed it was a story he wrote, but it's a book I had never heard about before.
It's a great book. It's also at least half of a book thicker than fucking it. And like you said a podcast ago, and I was just like, that book was fucking this monster. No, that one that you just, yes, it's bigger. And it's good. So the whole interesting.
The episodes seem longer than an hour, or either I just lose track of time. I'm not sure. Some time travel thing. But at the whole first episode, I'm like, I love James Franco, but is he a good actor? I'm questioning that. But then by the end of it, I was like, must see the next one. And now I'm like hooked. I can't wait to see what happens.
I haven't seen the thing on, you said it's on Hulu. I thought it was on Netflix, but maybe it's on Hulu. I know that they were putting together, I don't know, a made for whatever, Hulu or Netflix, whatever, with James Franco. I know that was coming out. I had borrowed the book from a friend. I got about 200 300 pages in.
Way too many pages for me.
And I realized that I was never going to get through this book. But it is a very good book. And for someone like me who enjoys time travel, sci-fi, so I assume that the series that you're watching is just as good. But I didn't make it very far in the book because I was just like, I'm never going to get through this entire book. But when I get through my true crime, I'm going to listen to that one. That's my next one to go through on the audio.
You totally should. And then in the end, watch the series or whatever. I mean, I'll let you know if it ends horribly or something, because some series, Game of Thrones, like to do that. Just fuck it up at the end.
Game of Thrones. Yeah, I know.
But I don't think that that's going to happen, because it's only gotten better with each episode and stuff. And because I know that Stephen King just likes to do his own thing. So in the end, is he going to pull like a Quentin Tarantino and change the course of history and show us like the world could be totally different? Or is it going to be not work out the same way? He is kind of usually a downer more than he is an upper. So, sorry. The cemetery in France thing. So I'm just going to leave that right there, because I don't know. I only found that in like one article. I couldn't tell you any more about that. And I just thought that was so fucking extreme. I had to tell you.
Wow.
So like most museums, they are in complete denial of the paranormal activity that's going on there. And they refused for a long time all requests for investigators to come in. However, finally, in 2010, the USS Texas allowed a paranormal group from Houston to investigate the ship. They shared their experience aboard the Texas with the local news, and their time there was brief, so they didn't have a whole lot to show. And it was fairly quiet while they were there. They did get an interesting photograph of a like white vapor mist that appeared in one photo but wasn't there in the next photo that they took right afterwards.
Nice. Was it shaped like a samurai by any chance?
No, it was simply like a blur, but they were indoors. So like what would cause that? Kind of. There's no outside forces really to cause it. And whether they were just like shaking around while they were taking the photo. I don't know why this would happen. And then apparently in the very next photo that they took afterwards, it wasn't there at all.
Ooh.
Now, I couldn't find this photo because it was from 2010. I could not find it from the paranormal group that investigated the ship. I believe maybe it's possible that the paranormal group doesn't exist anymore. They've changed names or something like that. But at the time, so if you go under their group name on YouTube, there's only like 2 videos or something like that. One of them being the segment from the local news where they were on it and they were showing this picture, and they were like Spirit Paranormal or something like that from Houston. If you just Google USS Texas and Ghost, you'll find it. You'll find lots of cool stuff. But I did find a blog from 2013 from a Becky Vickers, who has an interesting white mist in a photo, but it's from the grounds outside of the USS Texas. And if you'll recall, the Texas is docked in San Jacinto, and again, we could be saying that wrong, monument at San Jacinto State Park, which has a bit of a dark history of its own.
Yeah.
The Battle of San Jacinto was led by General Sam Houston, where, yeah, that's where the name comes from, where the Texan army engaged and defeated the Mexican army in a fight that lasted just 18 minutes.
Oh my God, are you serious? Holy crap.
It's so silly. The battle where this all took place was in a very thick oak grove, and it was separated by marshes, which was typical to the terrain, and it was familiar to the Texans, is what I mean. But it was quite alien to the Mexican soldiers.
Oh, wow.
So they had been there like for a whole day before, and nothing was going on. Like, they arrived and it was kind of a standoff, a stare down contest.
Oh my God, seriously.
But then on April 20th, that's what was going on. But on April 21st, the Mexican General Casa, they arrived with 540 reinforcements, like soldiers, bringing the Mexican forces to approximately like 1,200 between 1,500 men. I'm sorry, they outnumbered the Texas forces, which were only like 800 men. Oh. General Casa's men had marched steadily for more than 24 hours with no rest and no food to get to this location for this battle. And as the morning wore on and the Texans weren't attacking or making any kind of movement, the Mexican officers lowered their guard by afternoon, and they gave permission to all the other soldiers to rest and eat and bathe. They didn't think anything was going to go on.
Man.
Sneaky Texans. General Houston ordered the Benson Bridge to be destroyed in that time, blocking the only road out. They then struck the Mexican forces and started firing cannons, and they engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Mexican soldiers were taken by surprise, and within 15 minutes, the Mexican soldiers abandoned their campsites and fled for their lives.
Yeah.
However, though the battle seemed to be won after 18 minutes, the killing lasted for hours.
Oh.
Because as the Mexican soldiers retreated through the marshes of Peggy Lake, Texan riflemen stationed themselves on the banks and shot at anything that moved.
Damn.
Many Texan officers, including Houston, attempted to stop the slaughtering by, telling them, quit it. We've won. It's good. They were unable to gain control of their men. 650 Mexican soldiers were killed and 300 were captured.
Oh.
Only 11 Texans died during this whole thing.
Wow.
The grounds around the U.S.S. Texas have been reported for interesting sightings.
Yeah, I bet.
However, paranormal enthusiasts still find themselves drawn to the ship itself for any kind of experiences and activity. Though, like I said, there are some that say a lot more serious things happened out on these grounds. Maybe we should check this out.
Yeah.
So more recently, the ship has been open to overnight investigations.
Nice.
Yeah. Actually just had one on July 13th. But a group that when I was looking for evidence and stuff, it was from past investigations, not the one from July 13th. It was from before that, but sometime this year, there was a YouTube channel under the name of Rene K. I'm assuming just an individual that posted her experiences from the night. They had witnessed a flashlight turning on and off in the sick bay. A group asked multiple questions, and this went on for like 40 minutes.
Wow.
They seemed to receive more activity when they spoke German rather than English. I mean, it first reacted as they were speaking English, but then they weren't getting much, and they said like a German word, and it reacted. So then after that, they were like Google translating shit.
Yeah.
Like to try to talk more. I think one guy did know some German, and then, like I said, they were Google translating stuff to speak more and more to carry this on for the 40 minutes.
Right.
The same group also had flashlight communication, we'll call it, in the brig with a spirit that responded more so to English. And also, they don't believe it was a sailor. They believe it was a past employee of the ship's museum, because they had been informed that a male employee had passed away just recently. And some of the questions that they geared towards it responded, proactively to that kind of questioning.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I would love to be that ghost who was like, no, I was just a tour guide here, guys.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no. I don't know anything about wars. I really dig this ship.
Right. I can tell you about other haunted places to explore because I've worked here
for so long. You should go check out the engine room.
Right?
That's what he's trying to tell them, but it's through a flashlight, so it's really hard.
Check out the engine room. Blink on, blink off. Blink on, blink off.
He's like sending them, what is it called?
Morse code.
Morse code, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're not getting it. Also, I just want to point this out. Beware if you go on YouTube and you just put in like Ghost of USS Texas, beware that there are some videos out there labeled Ghost of USS Texas, right? But they are from people playing Call of Duty World War II. I just thought this was hilarious. Apparently in 2018, there was a mod or whatever you would call it, a section of the game that there was an Easter egg of a ghost.
That's so funny, man.
In uniform that pops up in about a minute and a half mark through this section of the game that on the USS Texas. And I clicked on this without reading the full title and realizing they were saying COD, Call of Duty. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh, damn it. You got me again.
But I thought it was really funny because either the makers of that portion of Call of Duty are really, really fucking morbid, or they knew that the USS Texas was reportedly haunted and they included that in their game. So I thought that was like, thanks, dude. We love paranormal too.
Cool. Now see, your kids should have gone on that because now here you have the Call of Duty tie-in that your son would have loved.
Yeah, right. I mean, like there was some place that they wanted to visit in New England. They were telling me about when we come up there in a couple of weeks or whatever, a week, I guess. And then as he kept describing it and he started talking about a video game in the same sentence, I was like, do you only want to go there because it was in a video game? And he was like, maybe. And I was like, it's a whole day event. They were talking about the, what do you call it? Boston Freedom Trail.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently there's something along the lines of there that match with the video game that they play. And I think he just wanted a selfie in that area. And I was like, you want to spend a whole day for a selfie? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm just going to go ahead and put this out there, but I also want a selfie on the Boston Freedom Trail.
Well,
100%.
That's where his decision making on our to-do list goes, is whether he can make an Instagram post out of it or not. Oh. So, about the USS Texas, with the haunted video games and the reports of red-headed ghosts and strange mist all about, that's not the scariest thing of this ship. The scariest thing of the USS Texas is that it's fucking sinking.
Oh, no. Seriously? They need to move that shit then.
They need to do something. It has had numerous leaks over the years. On June 2010, a link, just thinking of like Zelda now. On June 2010, a leak on the starboard side of the ship caused the Texas to sink 2 to 3 feet.
Shit.
On June 2012, about 30 new leaks between 1-inch holes and 2 square feet gap.
So if you were to tour this boat, like, what would you actually even get to tour? I'm just like the top deck? Because, like, this shit is sinking.
Everything else is underwater. So all these leaks were discovered. Ultimately, it took 3 weeks. They closed the ship down. They removed it from the water and they repaired the leaks. This was back in 2012. And then on June 12th of 2017, a 6 by 8 inch hole about 15 feet below waterline caused the ship to tilt 6 degrees to the starboard side.
Something wants this boat to fucking sink.
Just go underground.
Goodbye.
Just goodbye. We're done.
Bye-bye.
The end. So After emergency repairs, the crew pumped water, about 2,000 U.S. gallons of water per minute, out of the ship for more than 15 hours.
Oh my God.
They just can't get a hold of this problem because the ship is still having issues to this day. However, they still let people go on this ship.
Wow.
They have tours during the day. They allow people to sleep on it overnight. Like, not just paranormal groups that are like, whatever, if I can see a ghost. Nope. They let Boy and Girl Scout troops stay on this fucking ship. I mean, just like whoever wants to book an overnight and see what it's like to live like a sailor sinking in the water. The city government recently has approved like a $35 million overhaul on this ship. Soon it's going to move to Mobile, Alabama. Maybe I made that up because on my notes I only have Alabama, but I'm assuming Mobile, and repair the ship. And then as it comes back to Texas, it sadly may not return to Houston. It may go to Galveston because it's a bigger tourist town. So Houston's pretty pissy about that. You know, I feel them. It sounds super cool and adds to the town, like for something to see.
Sure.
But Galveston's not far away, so you can stay in Houston, but go to Galveston type thing. So I think the fact that they were so against paranormal investigators coming before, and the fact that they are now promoting like overnight events was maybe had something to do with the fact that the ship is fucking sinking.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And they needed that financial support. And they wanted to kind of prove that Houston can contribute, you know, economically to this ship and keep it there as a tourist attraction. I don't know if that happened for them. I don't know if they'll get their ship back. As of right now, it still sits in the water off Houston. It hasn't moved yet for its repairs.
Wow.
Because like I said, they just had an investigation there not too long ago. But hopes for Houston that they get their ship back and they can keep it right off of that area where a battle happened, and it's all just really cool and everything, especially for paranormal investigators. But Galveston's got haunted stuff too, just in case it moves there, you know, and if you want to investigate it. So,
sweet.
So, I mean, we've seen this 1,000 times before. Locations that we've investigated seem to be like trying to bring in the dollars just to keep this, you know, place up to par.
Yeah.
And I think we've always kind of knocked them in the past. Like, they're making X amount of dollars on how many people here tonight, and they still have trash everywhere. Yeah. But when you think of a ship as old as the U.S.S. Texas and what it takes to keep something in the water like that, you're kind of like, fine, take my money. I feel bad for you. That must be really hard for the keep up. And a lot of the people, I think, that were against paranormal investigators coming on board for so long, I think at some point they realized if they come on board, they have to share the history of the location to kind of tell their story. And the historians of the ship got so excited about the idea of just keeping the history alive that I found lots of YouTube videos about that. They were just kind of like, we just want the history to stay alive with this ship. Yeah. And so whatever it takes, basically, that's all that we really care about. And you know what? It works. It works for us. I know that it has in the past, and it worked for my kids as I'm telling the history story. They didn't even care about the paranormal stuff. I'm telling them about the history story, and I made it interesting, and I threw in some kind of like, you know, ghostly activity and stuff, and they were all down for it and listening to it. So the historians are like, sure, the ship's crawling with ghosts, whatever gets you to come here and listen to this ship's 105-year history. That's fine.
Yeah, right.
We're cool with it. Whatever you want.
Right. Just come here and visit. 105 years?
Yeah, the ship is that old.
Yeah, at that point, they don't give a fuck. They're not going to be like, we don't want to tell you about the haunted stuff. We just don't want to associate ourselves with that. They're just like, oh, do you want to come and visit? Okay, what do you want? What can we give
like,
you? Do you want to know about trolls, fairies, goblins, anything that we can figure out that might be associated with this ship? We will figure it out so that you can come here and have a good story. I like that. They're just like, here's a history lesson, and then here's some paranormal stuff, P.S.
Well, I mean, they had reportedly said that since like 2010, for sure, in that news article or episode, whatever clip, they were like, we have been asked a billion times, basically. So like so many times paranormal investigators have tried to come on this ship and stuff like that. But we're like, no, we don't want to be disrespectful. And I get it. Like, death is death. And like somebody lost a family member. Right. And so it is harsh to be like, I'm there trying to talk to your son or your nephew or your cousin or whatever. Like it's a game. I get it where it seems insensitive, but at the same time, it really, especially us, we're very appreciative of the history that's connected to the ship. And it's more so like, if you're left behind, what can we do for you? What would you like to share? And then sometimes you find out it's not even a sailor that was aboard. It was just an employee that really, really loved the place or type thing.
And I mean, I just want to get in there and put my hands on all of the buttons. And am I not supposed to press the red one? I want to get in there.
Yeah. It's decommissioned. It's fine. You should be able to do that.
Right. I can't do that in my normal day to day. Let me get in the boat and start pushing buttons.
When they hit the red.
Yes.
That's extreme. But no, I really hope that after the repairs, it does return to Houston. Houston, to me, seemed like a really cool town. I don't know what everybody else is doing, but it was a mega town. We stayed outside of Houston in Katy, and then on the other side we stayed in Wendy. That was pretty far out of Texas. But Katy was really close in a big town, and we loved it. Like everybody was super nice and stuff like that, and all of Houston seemed really beautiful, and I feel like that there could be some real stuff to do there. So I hope the battleship returns there. We saw the channel that this could have been sitting in. It was at night, so we didn't see the battleship. Like I said, my kids were not letting me explore any further, but it was a really cool story. And I think probably because of the gaming thing, but also because they both have probably heard World War II stories and stuff from their games and from school, that it was an interesting story to them. And just to see that there's I actually witnessed on YouTube through these other people's stories that there were activity going on.
Wow.
Oh, and that white misty photo.
Yeah. You got one of those for me too?
I do got one of those for you. Circled and everything. It's just a little white mist, but it's not something that can be confused for much else. And that's why I was like, that's a pretty good damn photo.
Here we go. Let's see. Oh, I love the circle and an arrow in case I missed it.
Yeah, that's like some shit that I would do.
Here, right fucking here.
Right there.
It's not a bug. It is a mist.
It's huge, though.
Yeah, it is humongous. That is a huge, epic white mist. It's clearly not a gap between the trees. It's something, as you're looking at it, you see the tree line. There's no gaps that would even look like that. There's something hovering in this photograph, which appears to be like right above the cemetery. There's like is there a dude there? These are just stones, right? Like one's red and one's white.
Yeah, they're just stones. No persons are in the photo. It's just stones. There's a cemetery within the park. And, they claim nobody was in the photos, and I don't actually see what looks like any human bodies in the photo as well. No. And it's blocking out trees and everything. So it's not a ghost with arms and legs and all that stuff, but
sometimes they're not like that, man.
No.
Sometimes it's a mist or an orb or whatever. But in this photo, it seems like it's a mist. It also seems like it comes to a head, but they're like on the very right end of it. It's more of a circular formation. If you don't zoom in, if you're just looking at the picture as itself, it does look like it has eyes and a mouth.
Wow. I was thinking it looked like a tadpole, like a giant.
It totally looks like a tadpole. Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. And the whole battleship thing, like we have a thing for ships, I guess, and military stories and stuff like that in our family. And so we enjoyed it. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Houston was cool driving through it. I wish I would have spent more time there. All of Texas, I definitely saw each corner of it, it feels like. And I know that there's a lot more to explore in that state.
Texas is definitely one of those places that seems like it is where you can go and talk about the paranormal and be accepted. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the history that's there.
Well, it's kind of like out west. What I've experienced being in Arizona and stuff, people are kind of like skittish towards the paranormal, but also at the same time, they're like, we got you. We feel you. We've heard those same stories. And so they completely believe you. Not all of them are readily going to run out there in the wild with you.
Right. And investigate that shit with you. Yeah, sure.
So I think Texas falls under that, Wild West feel as well.
Yeah. I'm glad you did that story. That's an interesting one. There's so many places in Texas that I'd like to investigate. So I'm glad that you started the chain off for us and picked one.
Yeah.
You put one on the podcast map.
So yeah, if you have any stories from the USS Texas or just any area in Texas, we'd be happy to hear that story. So you can email us at creaturesofthenight.paranormal@gmail.com. I apologize for it being so long. If you don't want to type all that in, then you can go to social media. You can meet. Nope. I mean, yeah,
sure.
Meet us,
why not?
But, you can message us at creaturesofthenight_paranormal on Instagram, and then Twitter and Facebook is the same thing. Just take that underscore off. So COTN paranormal. And then you can go, just quick message, or you can comment on any post that we post.
And like and subscribe. And that's all I'm asking, really. All those other things that Wendy said, that's cool too. If you have an experience, we would love to hear about it. But, that whole like and subscribe thing, we would really, really like for you to do that too. P.S.
Yeah. Please rate and review on any of the forms that you listen to, like iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, those types of things, all of them. We've made sure that we're on all of them for you. Mm-hmm. And then just in case you need it, we do have spiritual products to protect yourself and to enhance your experience in exploring the paranormal. And that is found on our website, creaturesofthenight.paranormal.com, or you can go to Etsy and go under the Spirit Emporium. And so you'll find a bunch of spiritual products plus t-shirts with some of our podcasts. Well, with our podcast name on it, and then some of the titles that we thought were hilarious.
Right. And, drop us a line. Let us know how we're doing.
Yeah, we'd love to talk to you, because I get really sick of talking just to Chris. She's boring.
No, she doesn't.
I'm just saying, I love her.
So, yeah.
That's it, guys. So, yeah, do all those things we told you on social media and talk to us, because we love to talk to you. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.